Okay, so basically, we're just going to talk a little bit about boring business today, which I know sounds boring, but I promise will not be. Um, I really want to dive into a couple different things here of like, why is that good? Why are people like working against that? We'll say why that gives you more profitability, what that can look like, all of the things. So basically, when I think of a Lit Up Life, I think that we have a very boring business and business model. And I'll like define what that means, but I think it's important to say, hey, Mandy, hey, Jess. Oh, so glad to have you guys all here today. So appreciate you. So for me, boring business means like you have a model that is replicable, that you have a set of tasks that you do over and over again, that you have ease in it, that there's not a lot of like upheaval all the time. You're not making big changes often. You're just kind of like doing the things and seeing that same trajectory over time. Hey, Julie. So obviously, there's a continuum there, but I think that so many people in the online space do not run boring businesses or are very resistant to running boring businesses. They're, so quick to want to like do the next thing, always change things up, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to talk about why that can actually be really detrimental and why sometimes boring business is the goal. I think that we don't hear that talked about as the goal very often. And that's kind of the conversation I wanted to have today is like, actually, like, let's invite this in as being like one of the goals. Because for me, I think boring business can equal really full life when your business is taking all of your time, energy, thought, attention, creativity, etc. Like that comes from somewhere else. And I think we don't always recognize that. But when you're giving, pouring into your business and it has all of this like excitement, that can be good, but it comes from somewhere else. Do you know what I'm saying? Right. So it's like, yes, you might have seasons where your business is more like intense or exciting than others. But if you're constantly running that, you're almost guaranteed that other areas are feeling challenged in your life or aren't getting your attention in the way that you would really want them to, because it's all going into the business, right? Michelle said my Manny Gen self is semi-resistant to boring business, but has learned to find joy in different ways instead of expecting it all to come from one place, aka the business. Exactly. That's exactly it, Michelle. It doesn't mean we don't need that novelty or excitement filling our cup in certain ways. What I just see happen with so many people is they're trying to get it all from the business. And that makes them make so many business decisions that are not actually good business decisions, that actually make like the way they're operating so much harder. And that's really the point here, is it doesn't mean you can't generate excitement in your life. I think quite the opposite. Sometimes if you let yourself have a boring business, you have a more full and exciting life, in my opinion. Again, this is not like across the board. It's always like this no matter what, but it is something I see a lot, and it is something worth talking about. Oh, you guys are cute. Hi, Bestie. Mandy said, wow, so eye-opening. Same. Okay, good. I'm so glad that's helpful. Have definitely been there in the business is my all. And I think for a long time, business was my lifeline from my toxic 9 to 5. Totally. Right. And it's like, I think like you can have those seasons and they can serve you. Like I think about different seasons in my life and like business seasons, right? There have certainly been times where I was more all in on my business and more like, this is my focus point. And those aren't bad. It's just more like, are you like there, it can't go on like that forever. Hey, Alyssa, I know, I'm so sorry. Megan can't be with us today, but I promise we'll still deliver. But she'll be back. So a really good analogy for this, and then we'll get into some more specifics, but I think relationships are obviously such a good analogy for this, where like at the beginning of your relationship, usually there is a lot more like excitement and intensity and all of that kind of stuff. But relationships that continue with that long term typically become quite toxic, where it's always up and down and there's always turmoil and intensity and all of this stuff, right? And I think the same is true in business. Like all of us, when we start our business, have that initial, like, oh, because it's all so new and exciting and whatever. But if we don't find a way to level that out, it's very, very easy to get into toxic territory really quickly. Versus recognizing that like probably your business is never going to feel like it felt at the beginning. Probably your relationship is never going to feel like it felt at the beginning. I think sometimes that's like a thing we all have to radically accept, note that we don't want to, but it can feel better and it can feel different and it can feel exciting in other ways. And you can have more things that light you up around it. Like, relationship as an example, I think that often when we're like, oh, let me just make sure I'm not missing stuff. Jeff said, making sure my business is not my only hobby anymore has been a whole ass identity shift for me. I love that. So good. Michelle said that early season was when I spent 100% of my time listening to biz podcasts. Still have a moment with those, but I've added some other things in there to round it out. So good. Hey, Netta, thank you for being here. Celebrating that someone else just joined my challenge. Amazing, Michelle. Alessi said, I find this topic so interesting. Do you think it can be applied in a phase in which you're not feeling so excited in general and you feel pressure of being high vibe for your biz, but actually you can still focus on the boring steps and move the needle forward? Oh my God, totally. I love that. No, Rishi, I'll talk to you about that in a second more. Alessi, let me just grab that, but I don't want to miss this. That's so funny. NRE. Yes, new relationship energy. Like a drug, infatuation, high energy, natural, lasts around 6 months to 2 years. Right. And like, that can be so good, right? Like the NRE is exciting and amazing. And there's so many good things around that. But if it doesn't level out, that's not great. And I think the same thing is true in business, or we're always trying to chase that. Like if you're in a relationship, always trying to recapture what it felt like in the beginning, you're perpetually disappointed in your relationship. And again, same is true in business. If you're in business always trying to recreate what those first like 4 months of business felt like or whatever, like it's not good, so to go off of what Alessia said, and then I'll get back to the other analogy is for sure, like you can move your business forward when you're not super high vibe. Like that is totally possible. And actually the boring business idea, I think, is really supportive of that, because it's like, great, what just moves the needle forward? What makes things replicable? What allows us to have good processes and good systems where maybe I'm not like so juiced up, excited about it, but it means the business can run and can still get results when I need to have a season of not being so juiced up and excited and get to go back to that when I am, right? Yeah. And like Michelle said, she hit burnout after those first 4 months, definitely not trying to get back there. Yep. Totally. Mandy said the same, I think like it's so difficult, right? Because even think about, okay, relationship example, that new relationship energy is in large part created by so much uncertainty. Like the excitement is based on uncertainty, right? You don't know like if they're gonna call or what it's gonna be like or da 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 da. And then like once you're like married and living with someone, you're like, I know that, like, I know all the things. I know what you want for breakfast. I know what you're gonna say to me today. I know if I bring this up, how this is probably gonna go. Da, da, da. Like, right? We lose some of that, but we gain so much else, right? Like having some like certainty and safety and support and consistency in a relationship is so juicy. It feels different than new relationship energy, but it is like deeply and supremely satisfying. And the same is true in business, right? Like, yeah, you might not have that intensity and uncertainty if you have a really boring business that just fucking works, but man, you have a lot of other things, right? You have like safety, contentment, fulfillment, certainty, like I go on and on, right? So I think it's just remembering that there are natural trade-offs that occur with these things, but being willing to give yourself that and to go there instead of kind of like fighting for it to feel this certain way is so valuable. And it's actually where the best results come from. Michelle said, when my coach at the time was like, you don't have to be on social media 24/7, my body exhaled for the first time. Yeah. Mandy said still battling this one. Right. Like, I think that that's big when we're like, oh, like, I don't have to even, again, like relationship parallel. Oh, I can like have this whole life outside of just this person. But that's what I was saying earlier before we were talking about other things. But I was saying how like at the beginning of a relationship, sometimes it can almost like take over your world for a little bit. It's like you talk to your friends less, you do your own hobbies less, whatever. You're like so in it and infatuated. And then eventually you come out of that and you're like, there's this whole other life like that I want to get back to. Like, I want to see my friends all the time. I want to, excuse me, like do my other hobbies. I want to like go away for the weekend without this person. And like your life gets bigger and better because of that. And I think the same is true with your business. Like there is that initial point sometimes where it's like, my business is everything and I want it to be so exciting and I want to pour all my juice and energy and creativity and all of this into it. And then it's like, when you step back from that and you're like, wait, I could pour that into my whole life. That's when things get really fun. When you're able to, yes, have some creative pieces of your business, but also have like a really well-oiled machine that allows you to funnel that energy other places. It's so cool. The secret lives of business owners. Love it. Hey, Steph, welcome from Paris. So beautiful. Oh my gosh, what was I going to say about that? Oh, I have a client example that I wanted to share here. And then I want to talk some more about like why we do this and then some of the like profitability aspects, because that feels like a really important part of this conversation too. But I think that this client example is really helpful. So one of my clients has built her business. Like it has been like her dream to kind of like have it built to the point where it's like this well-oiled machine, things happen without her, et cetera, et cetera. And so she's really accomplished that. Like she was able to take a month off and like have shit work for her and like all of this cool stuff. And what she's gotten more and more, I would say, back into, like this has always been something she's interested in that she gave up for a while, I think, in favor of like grow the business, is her art. And so she's now been doing art like a ton more and funneling a lot of her excitement, energy, creativity into that. And like this whole cool thing is happening there. Like she's selling pieces of art. She got a show in a gallery. Like it's just amazing. And she kind of came to me and was like really feeling weird about it and was like, oh, like, shouldn't my business be lighting me up like this? Blah, blah, blah. And I was kind of saying to her, like, no, like your business probably isn't going to light you up like this right now. Like you are funneling so much creative energy into this. You love art. You're like having this whole rebirth and renaissance with it. Like let that be okay and let that be exciting and let your business be boring as fuck so it supports you in that. Like let your business fund that. Let your business like support that with time. Like you do not need to be like, oh wait, my business is supposed to feel like this, I can't get this from somewhere else. Like that is toxic thinking that we don't even realize. It's like when we do that in our relationship, it's like, say you're out having so much fun with your girlfriends and you're like, oh my God, but shouldn't I be able to have this much fun with my husband? Like, no, have this kind of fun with your girlfriends and enjoy it. Have a like different kind of fun with your husband. Like it does not have to be the same or look the same or feel the same. It's like, as a human, am I holistically experiencing things that light me up? Like that's what's important, right? Michelle said, I just love that so much for your client and so relate with how I felt with my style and color account. Yeah, I think that's a great example, Michelle. Mandy said, I feel like that in my school. I work maybe 15 minutes a week and have been beating myself up over that. Yes. Right. And like, I think that, yeah, and it's going without you. Like, that's amazing. Like, I think that like we have to see that as positive and supportive. Michelle said the relationship analogy really puts it in perspective, right? Like, if we can be like, oh, this is so positive and supportive that I get to have like these different areas that light me up. And again, they're probably going to be different in different times because that's kind of how we work. We're excited by newness and novelty and whatever. And like, she might have this whole thing with her art, and then she might like come back into the business a year from now in a different way with a new idea. And that will be great too. But it's like the expectation that it should always feel 10 out of 10 almost always leads to disappointment. And it leads to us making so much drama in our business instead of getting that excitement from other places or other areas, right? It's like, again, I can't stop with the relationship analogy, but it's like you could go create all this drama with your long-term partner about like how they need to like light you up more and da 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 da. But if you have a really, really solid, good relationship and you just need some novelty, like maybe what you guys need to go do is do a new activity together, or maybe you need to go do a new activity totally by yourself. Like instead of funneling all this energy and intensity and drama into the thing that's already feels good and is working. That's the business thing here, you know? Hey, Shantae. Alessia wants to know what your color account is, Michelle. Make sure you tell her that. Hey, Hannah. Oh, with a brand new baby. Oh my gosh. Congratulations, Mama. That is so exciting. Oh, so happy for you. Michelle said, is it me? Am I the drama? It's like, it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. Right. Yeah, I think sometimes we are. Like, I think sometimes we are like craving that or looking for that, and we don't realize that's what we're craving or looking for. And so we do silly stuff because that's what we do as humans. Like that, you know, like, yes, we're the problem, and we're all also just like human doing the things, you know what I mean? But I do think it's helpful to recognize it. Like with the client with the art example, it was really helpful for her to be like, oh, I can see how I'm creating all of this unrealistic expectation. I'm about to create all this drama over something that is drama free. Like I can just enjoy my art and have that be my thing right now. But you know, sometimes we need that balance to see it. So like, yeah, I think we all do it. I think it's so normal. I think we all do it in different ways or different things. Like someone might be hearing this and be like, oh, I really do that in relationship, but I actually don't do that in my business a lot. Or someone might be hearing this and being like, oh, I actually never do that in my relationship. That's so interesting, but I do it in my business a lot. So I think we all have like different ways this plays out. But yeah, it's like really worth looking at, because if you don't ever let your business get to that point where it's like that like warm friend that's there, you know, that you like know is like consistent and reliable and supportive and there's no drama, and like they're just like this great part of your life, but they don't take everything from you. Like that's what we mostly want, you know. Again, it doesn't mean we don't have a craving for like newness and novelty and excitement sometimes, but mostly I think by and large from a safe, healthy place, like that's what we want, right? Alessia said, I can relate to the drama. My pattern is to drop the business or be in freeze mode when I don't feel excited for the business and having so much drama in my head. Yes. Mandy said same. Yeah, totally. And like seeing you in that, because again, we all do that. Oh, Michelle shared her account. Like we all have ways that we play this out. I think it's just really helpful when you can recognize them, because then you can stop them more quickly, right? Like you can be like, oh, I see that because I'm not like 10 out of 10 excited I'm about to do X, but what if I stayed tapped in this way? Or like, what if I created processes that like supported me in this way? Like that's so different. And it just like, it's that realization that helps you do that. Like a lit up life has been doing, this is what Megan and I were going to talk about a little bit more. If she was here, but I'll obviously talk about this part, but a lit up life has been doing like the same freaking thing for years, like years. We do like pretty much the same tasks each month, you know, like we have clients, we invoice them revenue share, we post on social media, I show up for this live stream, we put out a podcast. Like it's replicable. It's the same. Like not that things haven't changed. Like obviously the way we post on social media is a little bit different. The way that we you know, send an email has obviously evolved over the years, but like for the most part, we have like a boring business and we do the same shit that we've been doing for years. And doing that is what allowed me to create $1 million business, because I just kept doing the same things over and over and focused on like what mattered, right? And you know, again, it's not to say that that means it's all perfect or anything, but I do feel like having the boring business and the boring business model is what gives me like everything I want, that like safety, security, contentment. It's what allowed me to take maternity leave and be like, this will be fine, right? Like it does not have to feel chaotic all the time. It can actually feel like we just know what we're doing and we show up for that. honestly, half of me is like, that's the dream. And then my chaos comes in and is like, nope, let's build an app and do in-person events and be everywhere on social media. Yeah, I think just it can be both, right? It doesn't mean you never do anything new or exciting. Like, I think that's important to say, but it just means it's not from this place of like, oh my God, new idea, chaos, chaos, chaos. It's from a place of like intentionality, like to use a relationship example, right? It's like, oh, hold on, let me just grab these comments so I don't miss. To use a relationship example, I think it's like that where it's like you don't want to just like go pick a fight with your husband to create like excitement or intensity. Like you might want to sit down and have a conversation with him and be like, hey, I would love for us to like try a salsa dancing class together because that feels like really fun and like a new thing we could experience together. And like it's like it is something new and exciting, but it didn't have to have like all of this like chaos and intensity together. So I feel like that's sort of like a good way of thinking about it. Like in many ways, a lit up life has been really innovative too, right? But like not in a chaotic way. And so I think it can be both. Um, Shantae said, I'm doing my best to gather context, but I'm missing the beginning. Sorry. Oh my God, don't be sorry. But is the point here that building a business that allows you to explore other areas in life, business that doesn't contribute toward the business? Totally part of it. Yes. Yes. Spot on. And I feel like that's it. It's like I was saying at the beginning, it's like sometimes boring business equals full life, you know? Um, we need to taper Jess is Virgo, according to Michelle. Totally agree. It's about the energy source being more rooted and anchored than like thrill seeking. Perfectly said. Of course, our word woman says that so well. But yes, it's like, where is it coming from? Is it like, oh, okay, we're like deeply grounded in this, you know, ease. And so there's something else, right? Yes, Nova, I have thoughts on mitigating ADHD tendencies. I mean, listen, obviously that's okay. And that's part of it. I think like the biggest thing there is to really know your focus and like know what your boring business model is so you can keep returning to it. I think a lot of people never even decide what that is because like they're always on to the next thing or the next thing. And so it's almost like it's hard to be like, what would that even be like for me? What would I even be grounding into or rooting into? And so I feel like one of the best tips is just like know what that is. You know what I mean? Like I just know here's what our repeatable tasks are. Here's what our boring business model is. And like if we go outside of that, then I'm going to make an intentional choice to go outside of that. But knowing what that looks like and how to land it feels helpful. Michelle is telling us all the astrology we need. Now I need to know, does Lacey seek thrills anywhere in life? Give us the behind the scenes. Do I seek thrills in anywhere? I mean, I think that obviously different seasons of life, different things, you know what I mean? I feel like I went through a season of like major, like, you know, upheaval when I was, going through my divorce and all of that. So it was like kind of fulfilling that need in other ways. And then I was like dating, which I think was like really exciting and fun and all of those things. Right. And then, you know, Kenny and I like got together, we're dating in together, got married. Like, I think I've just had a lot outside. We got married, we got pregnant, like so many crazy fun things are happening outside. I think I used to do it with travel a lot more. I definitely do it sometimes within the business, but like in a measured way. Like I love creating something innovative and putting it out, but like, you know, more measured. Yeah, exactly. Shantae said NFT project. That was a thrill. Maybe for me, but for you too. Totally. That was so good for me. Like I love that. And that definitely like scratched an itch at the time for sure. I only know Jess's analogy. We're in the DMs way too much. Oh, you only know Jess's astrology. I thought it was an analogy. Sorry, my brain's back. I know, Mandy, I'm not wearing black. I actually literally do not have black on me today, which is crazy. Obviously, I don't have like a lot of color on, but we'll take the gray. But don't worry, I have this shirt in black too, in case we're worried. But yeah, I think like, so I guess like part of me just doesn't have this like huge thrill seeking thing, but part of me really is intentional about like, how can I get that other places outside of the business? And like really looking at the business from like very much like a business angle. So yeah, I think kind of both. And like, I think I'm probably like less naturally inclined to that. And also like, I think I am really intentional about paying attention for it because I see how much it impacts things. So anyway, yeah, like we've been doing the same thing for years. It's what got us there. But I also think that what's really important to say here that I don't want to end this conversation without talking about is like boring business also typically means profitable business. And I think that's what people miss sometimes. Like I think that where a lot of people go wrong is they're trying so many new things that they literally cannot be profitable with those things because, well, let me see if I want to say this a different way. Okay, so they're trying so many new things. And so money is going out to those new things. And then they're not super profitable on that because so much money is going out to rebuild the new thing. Does that make sense? Okay. And then they're like, oh, now I need more new things because these are not profitable enough. And then the cycle repeats. I don't know if I'm like explaining that quite right. But I think that that's so important. It's like, if you are always doing something new, you are always paying more in expenses for that, whether that's like new software, new team, new projects that they're working on, et cetera, et cetera. So you're always paying to like restart the machine, so to speak. And then you could get a result from that. But then you're like, well, that result's not enough because I just paid out all this money. Now I have to do more, right? Like that really compounds and like can get crazy really quickly. And you can get to this point where you're so over leveraged trying to find the thing, right? Yeah, Shantae said it makes sense. Alexi said same. Life is crazy enough to keep the thrill going. Yes. Michelle said it's chasing the new shiny thing cycle in hopes that it'll be the thing, start and stop, but no long-term momentum. Yes. Yes, Anna always says happy, boring life. Yes, perfectly said, Mandy. Shantae said you can direct that energy elsewhere, especially if your focus is profitability. Like sometimes it pays to be boring rather than not. Oh my God, totally. Almost it always pays to be boring, right? Nova said, like with dating a lot of new people at the same time, lots of upfront investments, depleted focus. Ooh, that is such a good part. Like I didn't even think of that like connection to the analogy, Nova, but you're so right. Like the amount of energy that goes into a new relationship. And if you're constantly doing that, like you're draining yourself. Yes. Oh, hey, Amanda. Yes, I find it so easy to fall in love with the creation of the things that we overlook the sales aspect. Totally. My business is boring and we're profitable, says Shantae. Yep. Like same. Like if anything, I keep thinking about how can we get more and more boring because I know that also leads to more ease, more profitability, right? And again, it doesn't mean it's never worth trying something new, but I want to make sure the expense/risk of that is worth it. Where I think so many people are just like, new is better, new is better, new is better. And they don't realize that now they've like totally financially over leveraged themselves to the point where it's going to take a while to make that up and to get to profitability because you have to let that play out for long enough to get there. Michelle said the same is true with hiring. Usually much easier to keep an employee that you know and knows your business than hire and train someone new. Totally. Definitely. Shantae said different seasons, different levers, but how can we bore this? Yes, exactly. And I think that that's really the thing, it's like, it doesn't mean you can't have a season of excitement or whatever, but it's like seeing it as seasons where I think like I think I have a boring business with sometimes like exciting seasons, and that's the ticket as opposed to the other way around. Do you know what I mean? Michelle said the whole conversation also speaks to what you say about having a coach long-term is so beneficial versus jumping from coach to coach. Exactly. Yep. 100%. Like it's like really like being in it and seeing the trajectory of that over time versus if you're always getting a new coach and have to like teach them all the new things about yourself. And just by the time they're learning about that in your business, you're on to the new one. Like you're investing so much resource into that time, money, energy, etc. Versus like getting the most out of what's there. And same thing in business. People invest so many resources into the new thing, hoping that's the thing that pays off. And usually the thing that pays off is just like doing the thing long enough to let it pay off, that feels true. As a witness to your company, you can always tell when you're in more of a sprint season versus day-to-day season. Does that make sense? Like the NFT was sprint, 100%. Yes. Like, and I think people can feel that energy. Like they can feel like, I'm sure with the NFT, like there was very much like a feeling behind that. And that's really good and exciting. And that like does something for your business. People remember that was a big thing. And also I think people can feel the groundedness and ease of the day to day. And both are good. Like, and I think that's important to remember. I feel like sometimes people think they have to be in the sprint season for their audience to really like feel them and connect with them. And that's not true. That can lead to connection and excitement and all of that. And like, certainly that's good. But like your audience can also feel your depth and groundedness and presence and consistency. And that's really helpful too, right? Jess said, totally. I used to convince myself that switching coaches was up leveling, but who knew the real up level was staying put? Oh, I love that. The real up level is staying put. That's big. The market does not help. It always asks, what's the next thing? Yeah, Michelle, totally. Like that messaging is always the thing. I agree. Definitely the ease, the whole both and this. Yes. Right. Like, again, like similar to relationships, like, you know, I have like long-term friends that I've been best friends with for years. Like one of my best friends, I've had since second grade, and we go through phases in our relationship where sometimes we're talking every day and sometimes it will be months, and both are good and both are okay in their own ways, you know. And I think it's just like letting things have their seasons instead of like feeling like business must look this way or life must look this way. It's like, by and large, like your business will have sometimes where you're sprinting, sometimes where you're not. But if you're always sprinting, you're going to burn out, you know, or if you're always creating the new thing, it's going to be harder to get profitable. And it's kind of that simple. So if what you want is to not burn out and be profitable, like there's something great about a boring business, right? Michelle said staying put is actually harder in some ways because you can distract and avoid by jumping from coach to coach, whereas staying put means actually having to get to the root of the thing, which is also where the healing, ease, and freedom comes from. 100%. Like, hold on, guys. I am like roasting. I need to like check what my office AC is on. I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I'm on fire. So either I'm having a hot flash. Yeah. Okay. That's something is wrong. Okay. So either our AC broke or I accidentally turned it up, but we're fixing it. Okay. So anyway, sorry for the brief pause, but I need to not be sweating my face off. So okay, I just turned on, praise the Lord. Okay. I think that, you know, one of the things about staying put is like, and same with your business, it's like, it's confronting, you know, it's confronting with a coach to stay put and have to look at those things. It's really confronting. Let me grab these. It's really confronting with your business model too sometimes, you know, like if I just keep doing the same thing, then I actually have to figure out how to make this thing work instead of kind of like, you know, like, what's that word? Kind of putting something new on a pedestal and being like, oh, this will be the thing that fixes everything. It's like really confronting to be like, what if I have to figure out how to make the funnel I have work, you know? AC goes out randomly, the words. Yes. The struggle is so real. I know. I'm so glad that my AC turned back on. I was just like, this will be very terrible if that is what happens. I don't know why it turned off, but at least it's back on. But yeah, I think like the, you know, confronting piece is tough, and it's what makes a lot of us go the other way and run, because it's easier than looking at the thing. And I even think that's like the up level with the new coach thing is like, it's so easy to be like, oh yeah, but like, that's where it's going to be more exciting, where we're going to really figure out the thing instead of being like, what if I sit in this thing, you know? Again, not that you would never make a change. I have plenty of clients who've made a pivot and that's been like really, really, really supportive for them. Like, so it's not to say that that's never true, but like when it's like fueled by that, like, as Nova put it, NRE, like new relationship energy, that's what you want to look at, you know, like this is such a weird example, but I remember when I was getting divorced, I remember being like, and I remember having a conversation with my dad about this and being like, what's so important for me is that I'm not leaving because I think someone else is better. I'm leaving because I do not want this situation regardless. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was not like, oh, I'm leaving because he sucks in these 5 ways. And I know I could find someone that's better in these 6 ways, right? I was like, I'm leaving because even if I never find someone else, I do not want to be in this situation. So like, that's a really good reason for a pivot in business where you're like, even if the next thing doesn't work, I don't want this thing. Cool. Move on. Right. But if you're like, I'm just leaving because I think there's something that's 5 clicks better, that's like not it. That's new relationship energy. That's like, I'll go be excited with somebody else for a year until it's not, you know? So I think that's a really important thing to look at it. Same with a coach. Like, am I leaving this coach because I just don't want to work with this coach anymore? Or am I leaving this coach because I think there's like this other person is like more up leveled, you know, like these are important questions. Yeah, surely there's something else. Yeah, totally. Thank you, Shantae. Preach. Yes. But that, you know, that was like the best thing I did in leaving that marriage, and thinking about that is like, I did it for the right reasons. And like, yes, it caused drama and turmoil and all the things in my life, and like the reasons were right. And so it doesn't mean we're never going to do that or never make a change, but you know, I think that 9 times out of 10, most people aren't like, well, I'm letting go of this funnel because I really want nothing to do with it. And I just don't want to do this work or whatever. They're like, I just think something else is better. Or like, I watched some webinar where someone told me XYZ thing is better, and so I'm going to go do that. It's also a whole conversation on data, which I will not get into, but is like, you know, like, what does your data actually tell you about the funnel? Blah, blah, blah. But anyway, the point is, sometimes it's really boring and confronting to look at the same thing over and over, but 9 times out of 10, there is a gift, like the gift is in that. And in the 1 times out of 10, where it's like really time to make a change and time to leave, it's because you don't want the current thing, not because you think the other thing is better, right? Mm-hmm. Alessia said, totally agree. I remember when I was teaching yoga and wanted to quit because it wasn't fully my thing. And a friend asked me, what if you negotiate more money or change place? Would you stay? And my answer was still no. It was for deeper reasons. Bingo. Exactly. Michelle said, this is how I felt about leaving my job. I wasn't leaving for a shiny new thing. There we go. A shiny new thing for my biz that felt perfect and sparkling. I left because my values were no longer aligned, and I knew it was time to remove my energy. So good. Yes. It's like, this is just not it for me. Like, that is different, right? Do you think it's important to speak to that as a one-on-one coach exclusively, or any business model for that matter? I think you mean speak to like the newness, right? Or the changing. I mean, I don't think you have to, but I do think it's valuable, because I think most people haven't thought about it like that. Like, I don't think we think about that in coaching quite so often. And I think it's like really easy to see that next thing as like, this is the up level or whatever. And I think that, you know, that's how people like overinvest, overspend, blah, blah. So I do think it's helpful. Again, I don't think it's like a requirement for messaging, but I think it's a perspective a lot of people don't have. And when you can share it, it really does change their thinking around it. Nova said there can be serious addiction to the highs and excitement of novelty. I'd love to hear examples of people who you've helped who really struggle with this. Yeah, totally. I think that's so true. Yeah, I think quite a few of my clients I can think of like really love that. And I think what we've tried to figure out for them is not like, how do they not get that? It's where do they get that, you know? This is maybe like a whole tangent. I'll just share it for one quick second. But when I worked as a therapist, I used to work in substance abuse. So like all my clients had dual diagnosis, so like substance abuse and like something else, typically like anxiety, depression, bipolar, whatever. And I just constantly hated the setup of how we treat addiction in our country in many ways, because we're like, well, the problem is the substance, just remove the substance. And it's like, the problem is an unmet need. How are we like really focused on meeting that need? And obviously a lot of therapists and clinicians try to, but it's like everything in the system, like I worked in a rehab center, right? So everything in the system is built around, how do we get them away from the substance? How do we remove the substance? The substance is the problem, right? That's like how even like court system is built around it, whatever. Get them in rehab, get them away from the substance. And it's like, so like there is a need that has to get met there. And so my point in saying all of that, besides the fact that that used to drive me crazy, is that when someone is like really needing that novelty and excitement, like I think for a lot of clients, it's just about where else are we getting that? So it's not always just through this one area in the business. Like, it doesn't mean you can't want that. It doesn't mean we have to make that desire wrong. And it doesn't mean we have to like change your fucking personality, right? It just means like we might want to try to find that in different ways or in different areas. So like even that client I mentioned earlier with the art, like just getting it in a different way, and like the intensity and the high of like getting this gallery show and all this stuff, like that's so amazing and is like checking the box, so to speak, in that. And like obviously not every single person's looks like that, but it is like, where can we find that in other ways? So I won't give too many like concrete examples there, because I feel like the ones I'm thinking of right now in my head are like quite personal. But if I think of one that's doesn't feel like super revealing, I will definitely share that. But yeah, for me, I'm like less thinking about like, how do we just make it so that you have no need for novelty, and more thinking of like, how do we get some of that met to create a bridge, which leads to, then we can look at why you have that need. So same thing with substance abuse, right? Like, what is the bridge? And then how do we look at like why you have that need underneath it? But if we just completely remove it, you're so activated that it's like hard to actually dive deeper, is kind of the tie-in and point I wanted to make there. So with clients, it's not like, oh, well, you're always going to be like addicted to this forever, but it's like, what's a safe way to get that need met right now that allows us to then go deeper underneath it? You know what I mean? Because if you're totally in the like, okay, my coping mechanism just got completely removed, yeah, of course you're not doing deeper fucking work there. You're activated, you're in fight or flight. Everything that was working for you is no longer working for you. So I think it's a long process. I don't know if that's like, great, but it is, and it does take like layers to it, in my opinion. Shanti said, right, if a need isn't being met through the initial substance. Oh shoot, I lost it. If a need isn't being met through the initial substance. Oh shoot, Shanti, it disappeared. I'm so sorry. Amanda said she meets it through travel. Michelle said dogs. Yeah, Amanda, dogs too. Shantae said, yes, I have a client who loves to learn, but they didn't want to continue to invest in courses or training programs. We've directed their learning to dance instead. So they're learning, but in a different way. That is such a great example, Shantae. I love that. And listen, obviously this is on a continuum. And if someone has like a true like addiction here, like they need to get support outside of coaching, they need to get, mental health, therapeutic support, whatever. But these are just examples. Shantae said, oh, this is what you said. Okay, because if a need isn't being met through the initial substance, that desire, the way the brain has been conditioned to respond, is still there. It's like redirect. Yes, exactly. It's still there. Jess said, is the moral of this live that I need a hobby? I think my fall hobby is soup. Yeah, soup is your hobby. I love that. Perfect. Follow Jess for more for fall soup recipes. Yeah, like Michelle said, my learning bag is currently funneled into meal planning, cooking. Perfect, right? Like we all have these things. It's just like, where are we directing it? Where are we putting it? If I have high need for novelty, how am I intentionally meeting that need instead of accidentally meeting it by creating all this chaos in my business, right? Or accidentally creating it by having like all of this intensity around me. So I think someone said this earlier. I must have copied and pasted it so I didn't miss it, but I can't remember who said it. But they said creativity is a huge value of mine, but I also find that creativity loves structure and it's easier to create within boring structure. So seeing it as both too, 100%, totally. Like they don't have to like completely not fit. Like you can still have excitement in your business and have boring processes. Follow me for hearty stew recipes. Love it. I cooked a pizza onto the baking pan this weekend. Follow me for more cooking tips. Well, Michelle, that's why you have to funnel all of your learning into cooking, because you obviously need to learn about what pans to use and when. It's perfect. It's perfect. So funny. So yes, lots of nuance here, but basically like seeing boring business as a positive. Like I think almost anyone that initially hears that that's an entrepreneur is like, but if you really can be like, wait, I can see how that's supportive of actually everything I say I want: consistent income, stability, the ability to have freedom, to take time off, to do things that feel good, to know that I have like stability there, fulfillment, like it checks almost every box that most people have. And so I think it's just remembering profitability checks that box in a big way. So I think it's just remembering that and seeing that as a positive. And that's really the conversation I wanted to have today, is like, how can we make this a positive thing? How can we see this as potentially even a goal? How can we see that there are other ways to get novelty met that are not just through the business? It gets easier when we do that. It really does. I need somewhere to epically fail forward at all times. There you go. Like that's just your need, and that's okay. That doesn't have to be like bad or wrong. You're just finding the best areas to put in. Boring makes me sigh and relieve, shows Shantae. Yeah, like it. I think that's why I like data so much too. It's so funny. I did a presentation with Jen on data for um this group of businesswomen that I'm part of, and one of the women in it was like, oh my god, I've never thought about it like this makes my nervous system relax so much. And I was like, yeah, totally. Like, this is, I think that's why I'm also so attracted to like data, because for me that is like the boringness of business. It's the like breathe a sigh of relief, it's the certainty, it's the relaxing, like, and I feel like all that stuff can feel so shitty, like, oh, boring business and data. But it's like when you really get down to like what that does, it's so appealing, it's so soothing. So anyway, seeing you in that, Shantae, very much agree. Jazz, you are just always on fire on these lives. I'm totally stealing that. Okay, hold on, I have to make this note because Jess is incredible. And I feel like I just got, exactly. I just got like a free bonus that I don't want to miss out on, guys. Okay, data is the breath work of the business world. Yes. Also, wait, Michelle, I'm taking that too, because that's also like perfection. Okay, yes. Everybody just give me all your data wording. So funny. I love it. I think the thing that feels most iffy for me is the way that is perceived, since it seems like people gravitate toward people who aren't outwardly boring, or more specifically, people who launch 30 programs in 1 month. Yeah, I mean, totally. I think like, okay, this is going to sound like a little bad, but whatever. One of the number one things that a lot of people say to me when they like get in my world, or like when they're a client who ends up knowing a lot of my other clients or whatever, is how do you always attract the best people? Like, I hear that all the time. How do you always attract the best people? And to me, that's why, because I give off like stable, consistent, grounded energy. And I think that attracts someone who wants to be that too, and wants, and like is in that craving, and it feels like we're a match. And I think that's why I have clients that stay with me for a really long time. And I think that's why, like, when people say like, I get the best people, like, I really think that's why. And so, yes, I think by and large, a lot of people are attracted more to that, like launching 30 programs, like intensity and hype. But like, I wonder, and I do not know, so I'm just saying this as a thought, like, this is not a rumor in any way, shape, or form. I wonder what the intensity of those programs feels like within them, right? Like, I wonder if people are getting into those programs going, oh my God, you always attract the best people. Like, I don't know. I haven't been in those programs. I don't have clients in those. I don't know. But what I know is that I think one of the reasons I do that is because of the boringness and consistency. And I think I have clients that don't bring a ton of like crazy energy to stuff. And so that's something to think about, you know. You might not have like the biggest following or whatever because of that, but I think you'll have a great business. Yeah. Yes. Mindset shifted. Yeah. It's really affirming. Okay, good. And again, this is not like a hit on anyone or their business model. It's just a personal experience thing of like, to me, I see this match in my clients and it's really juicy. So you don't always have to be like kind of exciting to be like, this business is amazing and everything I want. So, I think it's like dating too. Like, like you can attract a lot of attention in a certain way, but you might also attract a certain relationship and that matches that. And you can also not be the most like, whatever out there and attract something really good. Yes, exactly, Michelle. It's about leading with values and attracting that. And like, we all have that for sure. Amazing. All right, guys, I think that's all I got for today. Giveaways, content bundle, because that helps with consistency and boringness. So you have a process set up for that. And thanks for hanging with me, even though Megan couldn't be with us today. I appreciate you guys all talking with me and spending time with me today. And I'll talk to y'all next week. Bye, guys.